Hi, this is Lara at Elliott Wave Stock Market with an updated gold analysis for you for the trading session ended Wednesday, 20th of February. I haven't looked at gold in over a year now, so I'm going to go over my historic analysis. This video is going to be quite long. I want to go through some Fibonacci ratios within it. So going back, I went back way further off to the left of the chart, and I saw the end of a big third wave at supercycle degree, the end of a fourth wave down here probably, and the final fifth wave up at supercycle degree is probably incomplete. There's some nice Fibonacci ratios within this wave count. Within supercycle 4, cycle wave A has no Fibonacci duration, wave B has no Fibonacci duration, but wave C lasted 140 months, 4 short of a Fibonacci 144. Within this new upwards trend, cycle wave 3 is 109.16 longer than 2.618, the length of cycle wave 1. That's quite a big difference, but these waves are extremely long. It's an 8% variation. Because it's less than 10%, I consider it acceptable. And please note, this is on a semi-log scale, so although they look equal, they're not. Ratios within cycle wave 1 at primary degree. Primary wave 3 has no Fibonacci ratio to 1, and primary wave 5 is 16.35 short of 4.236, the length of primary wave 1. Within primary wave 2, intermediate wave C is just 2.15 longer than equality with intermediate wave A. Within primary wave 3, intermediate wave 3 is 7.9 longer than 2.618, the length of intermediate wave 1, and intermediate wave 5 has no ratio to either 3 or 1. Within intermediate wave 3 of primary wave 3 here, minor wave 3 has no ratio to 1, but minor wave 5 is 5.52 short of 1.618, the length of minor wave 1. Within primary wave 5, there's no Fibonacci ratios between 1, 3 and 5. Within cycle wave 3 of the supercycle fifth wave, primary wave 3 has no Fibonacci ratio to primary wave 1, and primary wave 5 is 14.26 longer than equality with primary wave 1. In terms of duration, primary 1 lasted a Fibonacci 21 months, primary 2 a Fibonacci 3 months, primary 3 has no Fibonacci duration, and both waves primary 4 and 5 lasted a Fibonacci 2 months. Ratios within primary wave 1 of the cycle wave 3, intermediate wave 3 has no Fibonacci ratio to intermediate wave 1, and intermediate wave 5 is 12.56 longer than equality with intermediate wave 1. Within primary 3, intermediate 3 has no ratio to intermediate 1, and intermediate wave 5 is just 8.29 longer than 1.618, the length of intermediate wave 1. In terms of duration, within this third wave at primary degree, intermediate 1 has no Fibonacci duration, intermediate 2 lasted a Fibonacci 2 months, intermediate 3 lasted a Fibonacci 8, 4 a Fibonacci 2, and 5 has no Fibonacci duration. Within this extended intermediate fifth wave here, ratios at minor degree, minor 3 has no ratio to 1, and minor 5 is just 5.61 short of equality in length with minor 3. Within this possible zigzag here, within cycle wave 4, primary wave A lasted a Fibonacci 3 months, primary B has no Fibonacci duration, but within it, intermediate wave C is just 0.9 longer than equality in length with intermediate wave A, and intermediate wave A lasted a Fibonacci 2 months, intermediate B lasted a Fibonacci 3 months, and intermediate wave C lasted a Fibonacci 5 months, a perfect Fibonacci sequence. So if this is a zigzag, the B wave is over, the C wave is underway. It should reach equality with primary A at 1398, and that will be the end of the fourth wave at cycle degree, and then we'll need a final fifth wave up, which would probably make new highs. The fourth wave may overshoot the trend channel that I've drawn here using Elliott's first technique. That's okay, sometimes fourth waves do that. If it does, we'll redraw the channel from the low of 2 to wherever 4 ends and place a parallel copy on the high of 3. I'd expect the fifth wave to end midway in such a channel. The fourth wave can't move into the first wave price territory. At cycle degree, on the monthly chart, my wave count is invalidated with movement below 730.4. Let's have a look at the structure on the daily chart, where the high of primary wave B within this fourth wave zigzag structure up here is this high up here. So if we're seeing a 5-wave structure downwards for a primary C wave, it's probably unfolding as an impulse rather than an ending diagonal, which is the only other structural option. We've probably got a first and second wave at intermediate degree complete, and now wave 3 is underway, with a leading diagonal for a first wave, a zigzag for a second wave, and the middle of the third wave probably began today, with 1, 2, and minute wave 3 probably incomplete. At 1488, minor wave 3 would reach 1.618, the length of minor wave 1, would then expect a small fourth wave correction, and then more downwards movement to end intermediate wave 3. At 1431, it would reach 2.618, the length of intermediate wave 1, would then have another larger, longer lasting intermediate wave at 4th degree correction upwards, and then further downwards movement to the final target to the downside 1398. This alternate monthly chart doesn't have quite a good look as the main monthly chart, but I'm considering it because of this little piece of movement in here. My main monthly wave count sees intermediate 3 and 4 over here, and for the alternate I've extended it further out to end up here, which means that cycle wave 3 is not over, and this downward sideways movement is just a series of overlapping first and second waves. If we get a new low below this low here labelled primary wave 4, the low of this candle, this alternate will look quite unlikely. It would be an extension of primary wave 4, which can't move into price territory of primary wave 1, which has its price extreme at 1032.7. The reason why I don't like it is this here, particularly this piece of movement here and here, just looks too big for waves at minor degree. I wouldn't expect particularly the second wave correction to have lasted 4 months in duration. It does look rather odd, and it clearly breaches this trend channel. However, I'll consider it because the subdivisions all fit quite nicely, and there are some nice Fibonacci ratios. Within this cycle third wave, primary 3 is 116.61 longer than 2.618, the length of primary 1. It's not the best ratio, it's a 9.4% variation though, so I'll consider it just acceptable. Primary 1 lasted a Fibonacci 21 months, primary 2 lasted a Fibonacci 2 months, primary 3 may have lasted one more than a Fibonacci 34, and primary 4 may have been over in a Fibonacci 3 months. So in terms of duration, they've got some really nice Fibonacci relationships. Ratios within primary wave 3, all the other ratios prior to this point are the same as the main wave count. Within primary wave 3, intermediate wave 1 has no ratio to intermediate wave 3, and intermediate wave 5 is just 2.97 longer than 0.618, the length of intermediate wave 3. In terms of duration, only intermediate waves 2, 4 and 5 may be considered to have a Fibonacci duration. They all lasted 2 months. Ratios within intermediate wave 3, minor wave 3 has no Fibonacci ratio to minor wave 1, and minor wave 5 is just 2.58 longer and 4.236 the length of minor wave 1. Within this extended fifth wave at minor degree, minute wave 3 has no ratio to minute wave 1, and minute wave 5 is just 5.61 short of equality in length with minute wave 3, with the third wave being the longest. So there are some really nice Fibonacci ratios in here. However, if price continues to fall for a little while yet, as I expect it will, probably for another couple of months or so, then this alternate will look extremely unlikely, and I'll go with the main wave count. I'll only consider this alternate if we have a new all-time high for gold. At that stage, I'd expect to see an extending fifth wave at primary degree, because gold does seem to have a tendency to extend its fifth waves. I aim to update my gold analysis about once a week or so. If you want S&P 500 analysis, you'll find it on my site. That's all for me today with some gold analysis for you, and I hope that everyone's having a fabulous day.